Right. It's Movie Time is produced by John DeSando. Listen to the shows and read reviews online at WCBE.org.
I'm John DeSando.
And I'm Linda Baas McClelland.
Let me do that again, lady. My voice is...
I know, you're having the same problem I am.
I'm John DeSando.
And I'm Linda Baas McClelland.
And this is It's Movie Time.
It's Movie Time.
Well, everybody's been waiting. All right. What did you think of Downton Abbey, Lenny?
Good morning, my lord. I am a true Anglophile, so I was always crazy about the TV series, so I was really looking forward to the movie.
Yes.
And when it opened with the aerial shots of the Grand Mansion, with the aerial shots of the Grand Mansion.
It started when it opened.
When it opened with the Grand Mansion and the aerial shots, they were soaring. And the music behind it, I got goosebumps. It was like I was really excited about it.
One of the things I love about modern movie making is the ease with which they can use these drones.
Right.
And they're beautiful shots. The Abbey is made for it.
Oh, it's huge. You just wonder what all those rooms are for, but you soon find out.
Well, as you look at the big mansion, there's also a big cast. Does that work at all, Lynn?
Well, the thing that bothered me, I think, the most was they had a 10-minute prologue to explain who all the cast members were. But it was still very confusing. There's so many characters in the TV series, but they were spread out over different episodes.
And I agree with you. I thought that while I really appreciated what they were doing, they were kind of telescoping the years of Downton Abbey into 5 to 10 minutes.
Right.
And while I thought, gee, that's a really good thing to do, it proved useless for the rest of the film. There's no way I could remember anything.
Oh, you're making me feel so much better. But to give it a little bit of focus, it's 1927, and the decline of the aristocracy is a major theme to me. The Crawley family gets word by royal post that the king...
Cutest little post you ever saw, the little red wagon.
The little car. The King George and Queen Mary are coming to visit Downton Abbey, and there will be a parade and a formal dinner. And so it just throws Mrs. Patmore and Mr. Mosley of the kitchen staff into a frenzy of preparations.
And, you know, there are a couple of... What I like about it is their attempt to create real conflict in the film, because we do live on conflict in that, and they really have some, even right down to the Irish Rebellion, for goodness sakes.
Right.
They have it with the king being there and attempted assassination. You know, this is pretty lively stuff.
Yeah, there were a lot of subplots.
Yeah.
And it was hard to keep track of them all.
Yeah.
Because it included so many different characters. But there was the issue of inheritance, which was kind of
Oh
sticky.
boy, that's a big one.
And there was a behind-the-scenes thief at work, and then of course the former Irishman, Tom Branson, is being tailed by a stranger, and they don't know whether it's a policeman or a detective or what kind of an agent.
And that's one of the strands. That's just one of the strands that they're pulling at here. There are romantic strands.
Oh yeah.
And you know, and I think of the one that signifies what this is. You're talking inheritance, and I'm also talking change here. In the time between World War I and World War II, and what would seem to be a prosperous time for England, there's a hint that all of this grandeur will be gone.
Right. And Lady Mary, who is the daughter of the Crawleys, she does voice her concern with having enough money to maintain this huge estate, and because the times, they are a-changing.
Yeah.
And so I think Lady Mary was really the main focus of the film. I could be wrong about that, because there were so many different people. But I think we saw her more frequently, and her concerns and how she dealt with things.
Yeah.
One of the, I think the most interesting things was when King George and Queen Mary come to visit, they bring their entire staff with them.
Another conflict.
Oh, it causes so much stress. I wanted to remember.
No, don't.
Okay. But Lady Mary is concerned, so she goes and gets Mr. Carson out of retirement.
Yes.
And he comes back to try and control some of this stress.
Is he? Is Carson? Would you call him the butler?
Well, yeah, he's the
I mean,
head
he
guy.
was the former butler,
Right.
And he comes back and he takes it over from the younger butler.
Mosley.
No,
I think it is Mosley.
No.
I could be wrong
Barrow.
about that.
Wasn't it Barrow? It was
May-
Tom
yeah,
Barrow.
Yes, Tom Barrow.
Because
yes.
Tom, we find out, has a romantic entanglement
Right.
himself.
Yes, it's kind of a surprise.
Yeah, and I
And
think
it's interesting.
yeah, and I think it's another reflection of the
Right.
change that's going on now.
Sign of the times.
Yeah, it can't help but remind me of just a few decades before how they had tortured and eventually killed Oscar Wilde for being gay.
Ooh.
And so they make a very strong statement about what was happening in Britain at that time
True.
with this matter, and it was a
Right.
serious matter, and you could be locked up for being gay if you were found.
Ooh.
So that's a strand of that I
Yeah.
really liked. That was an indication of where the old established norms of Britain were entrenched, and yet the hint that this is not going to be the way it is going to turn out
Right.
for that world.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Things are changing.
Right, and
In every aspect.
yes, and every now, who would you say is the favorite character of all
Oh,
in Downton Abbey?
That's easy. It's the matriarch of the family, Lady Violet. And she throws these barbs of just all kinds of crazy remarks at her good friend, Isabel.
Yes,
And that does add a big note of humor to the film.
Yeah.
And the audience was actually laughing
Well,
every time she would
Maggie
come out
Smith
with it. And
playing her is just she just has a barb for everyone.
Oh, I know.
And
She's great.
and she's imperious, but she's also slightly loving. And Imelda Staunton, who is also no slouch as an actress, goes nose to nose with her.
Right.
And it's really about change. It's
Uh-huh.
about inheritance, just what you had started talking about.
Mhm.
It was seriously about inheritance. It was about reconciling differences, and because to me the film was always balanced between the haves and the have-nots, the aristocracy and the working class. And how do you reconcile those? And does it?
Mm-hmm.
Does it at all help to bring the downstairs to the upstairs? Do you think?
Well, I think one of the most successful scenes for me was I love the word they use, when the royal people bring in their own staff to cook and serve and everything, and they were led by the page of Backstairs, which I thought his title was rather interesting. But even Carson can't control the chaos. But the staff comes up with their own clever plan of tomfoolery to cook and serve the royal couple.
Because this is the big deal, the highlight of some of their lives, to serve the king and queen.
Mm-hmm.
And the entourage has come to take over from
They
them,
take over everything.
which they weren't prepared for.
Mm-hmm. No, not at all.
But in their ingenuity, they find a way.
Yep, tomfoolery.
Yeah.
I love the word.
Yeah, and I think a signal that the aristocracy's days of lording it over the working class are going to be fading,
Mm-hmm.
as they really take over.
Yeah,
And the queen finds it necessary to approve
right.
of what they have done, even
Uh-huh.
though everybody else is, what have we done?
Mosley kind of spills the beans,
Poor Mosley.
literally,
Yes.
and the queen does make a remark that kind of softens the blow. So.
Yeah. So overall, Lenny, what do you think? Do you think somebody who has seen it as you have seen it on TV for years will enjoy this film?
Oh, I'm sure they will enjoy it. I was just disappointed in the length. It just went on and on and on.
It was 2 hours.
It was over 2 hours. I think the prologue was totally unnecessary. And if you just go in and just enjoy the beautiful scenery and the cinematography, and the costumes were out of this world,
Yes.
and not try to keep everybody straight, you can enjoy it.
Yeah. And perhaps another director might have made the transition smoother, or might have reduced the number of
Mhm.
little bits.
Little subplots.
Yes, there are little bits in their scenes, and they go from one to the other, and
Mhm.
sometimes it's not quite as smooth as it
Right.
could be,
Mhm.
just as it might have been, say, in
Definitely.
Gosford Park.
Yeah, definitely.
There are examples of large casts that are quite well done in the past, and it's
Mhm.
always It is always difficult. But let's say it wasn't a boring 2 hours. It
Oh,
was
no.
certainly an enjoyable.
No.
If you like the snootiness of the Brits,
Mhm.
which is just endlessly interesting, they got it down. The actors are just
They're
fantastic,
wonderful.
yeah. One disappointment I had, one of my favorite Brit actors is Matthew Good. And for some reason, he appears only really at the end. And he dances with, I forget his lady.
I know, see, which one, was it the husband that had
No,
returned?
then he came
or-
return. He returned.
Yeah.
Not I forget who.
Oh, I vaguely remember who you're talking about. Was she one of the royals?
Now he's Henry Talbot, and then his wife, it must be a Talbot. Anyway, blah blah blah. That's not an important point.
Okay.
Linda Baas McClelland. The film is Downton Abbey. What grade do you award it?
Because it was a little too long and a little confusing, I give it a B.
All right, and I give it a B too. I think it's a solid entertainment.
Yes, it is very entertaining.
It's not a disappointment for Downton Abbey fanatics.
Nope.
For newbies like me, it's fascinating. I always like it. The cinematography is beautiful. In other words, it's a good family
Yeah,
film.
it is.
I
It's
think
true.
Good one for friends to enjoy to each other, and
Uh-huh.
a good idea to see that no matter what your class, it's always about friendship and love.
Right. But from now on, you may call me Lady Linda.
Milady, it was a joy to have you here.
Thank you.